In spite of what you may have seen on another YouTube channel, the rear lower control arm bushings on this Jaguar S Type can in fact be replaced without having to replace the entire control arms. I know this because I did the job a couple of years ago and it saved me thousands of dollars. Welcome back to Jag on a Budget. Today I'll talk about the top 10 problems with the Jaguar S Type and how to fix them on the super cheap. So stay tuned. Number 1. Rear suspension bushings. On the Jaguar S Type from the factory, these bushings are fluid filled. They're called hydro bushes, and they're more of a wear item. They wear out relatively quickly, and every Jaguar S Type I've ever seen has either had them replaced or needed them replaced. So these include the rear shock lower bushing, and then the 3 bushings on the rear lower control arm. Actually, only 2 of those 3 are hydro bushes. The largest one usually is fine and doesn't need to be replaced. Here's an example of one of the bushings. Here's the failed bushing. It already is missing the boots and all of the fluid has leaked out, and it makes a terrible clunking sound going down the road. And here's the direct replacement made by Moog. So they do exist and they can all be sourced, and although they need to be pressed out and pressed back in, they can be replaced. The entire process would probably be subject for another separate video. If you want me to make that video, let me know in the comments. We'll move on to number 2. Number 2 on the list is automatic climate control. This is another super common problem with the Jaguar S Type. It's really an overly complicated system, over-engineered, and there are 2 components that typically fail. The first component to fail is the climate control valve, which is in the engine compartment. This is what it looks like. This is a failed one. Basically, the CCV has coolant flowing through it, and it mixes the hot and the cool coolant to achieve the optimal temperature, which it feeds then into the heater core inside the car to give you the temperature you've selected. But in reality, inside there's a plunger that looks like this, and there's a rubber grommet that always fails. Here's one with the failed grommet, and what then happens is that there's an electrical short inside the CCV unit here, and sometimes the electrical short can then cause damage to the climate control module, which is inside the car. And then this can burn out internally, the electronics in this, and then your climate control basically stops working completely, and you're either freezing or you're super hot and you're basically boiling in the car. The only solution is to replace the climate control valve with an original part. Jaguar part, of course, is very expensive, but there's a part made by Motorcraft which is reasonably priced. There are cheaper options out there on eBay, but I would recommend staying away from those. Those usually don't work as designed, and the Motorcraft unit works well, and it's not overly expensive. If your ACCM fails, then usually the best option is to go and find a good one at a local salvage yard, because these are unobtainium new. You can also have these ACCMs rebuilt. There are companies that specialize in rebuilding these. If you cannot find one at your local salvage yard, then that might be an option for you that's economical. Number 3, misfires. These are typically caused by a bad coil pack, sometimes a bad plug. Make sure you fix this as soon as possible, because if you don't, this leads to much bigger problems, which I'll talk about later. For the coil packs, I try to buy the best brand name available at the lowest price. I found this Beck Arnley is usually reasonably priced, much cheaper than OEM parts, but still good quality with a warranty. Number 4, catalytic converter failure. Unfortunately, another common problem, and typically this is caused by a misfire that has been ignored, and a car dumping unburned fuel into the catalytic converter, which then melts it, and then you get limp mode, restricted performance, check engine light, and there's just too much back pressure building up in the exhaust system, and the engine doesn't run right. If that happens to you, then really the only option is to replace the catalytic converter. To do this economically, you can either weld in an aftermarket catalytic converter, or try to find a good catalytic converter OEM from the salvage yard. Number 5, failed fuel pump. I have a whole separate video on this topic showing you exactly which fuel pump you can buy for about $10 and fix your fuel pump for years. I did this more than 5 years ago, and the car still runs fine with that $10 electric fuel pump part. There's no need really to replace the entire assembly, which costs $500, $600, $800. Number 6, sticking electronic parking brake. Jaguar S Type unfortunately has an electronic parking brake, which is completely unnecessary and again over-engineered. And with age, the cable system just rusts and causes the caliper to seize once you engage the electronic parking brake. You can either replace all the cables, try to lubricate them, or just not use the e-brake. Number 7, drooping headlights. This Jaguar is equipped with auto leveling HID headlights. Sometimes this system fails, although typically it's not the auto leveling system itself that fails, it's just a plastic support on the inside of the headlamp. There's a really easy fix which only costs you 50 cents, and that's to drill a small hole in a particular place on the headlight assembly, and then screw in a 50-cent sheet metal screw, preferably stainless steel. That will push the support back in its place, and that fixes the problem forever. Number 8, water leaks. There are two main areas susceptible to water leaks. One's in the trunk, and that can usually be fixed with a little bit of silicone caulk. It doesn't usually cause too many problems. The other area is in the engine compartment, and that can cause serious problems. One potential area under the hood is water leaking inside the spark plug wells, which then causes misfires. And so that's one of the things to check if you get a misfire is, can you have a bad coil, or do you have just water in the spark plug wells? The other area where water tends to leak with these disintegrated seals is actually down through the hole in the firewall intended for the air filtration system and onto the computer, and then down on the carpet in the passenger footwell. So if you have dampness or puddle in the passenger footwell, look for the leak and inspect the PCM. Make sure there's no water in the PCM. Number 9, transmission. This 2003 Jaguar S Type is equipped with the 5-speed Getrack transmission and the Sport package. Now the 5-speed manual is incredible. I love it. It's been super reliable, no complaints, fun to drive, much more reliable than any automatic transmission ever made. But there are some smallish issues around it. One is the throwout bearing. The throwout bearing is integrated with the slave cylinder in a concentric way, and when it fails, you have to drop the transmission and replace it as one unit. So that's something to know. The other thing is the transmission mount. There's a transmission mount on the bottom of the car, and whenever you get any kind of a leak from the transmission, even a small leak, the oil usually tends to accumulate right on top of the mount, and of course the oil over time will melt away the rubber, and the transmission mount will fail. This is not that difficult to replace, and it's relatively cheap. And finally, number 10, evap leaks. This is usually an check engine light that's a small evap leak, or large or very small evap leak, and these can be hard to diagnose. One thing you can do is make your own smoke machine out of a little bit of baby oil, a glass, and some clear tubing, and try to find the where the leak is in the system, and then replace whatever part needs replacing. The parts are not that expensive, but some of the parts are really difficult to get to. The carbon canister is buried between the body and the rear subframe, so it's really difficult to get to. But some other parts of the system are easy to get, especially in the front. So there you have it, folks, the top 10 problems with the Jaguar S Type. Let me know down in the comments if you would like me to make another video detailing any one of the repairs I just mentioned. And consider subscribing if you want to know how to fix your Jaguar S Type on the cheap.